Hey guys, it's Graham here. It's a new day, a new project, and today we're gonna be working on Jody's kitchen, dining area, prep surface, Murphy table situation. I hope you guys enjoyed the Thrift With Me video. If you haven't already, please hit that subscribe button and like this video. I'm definitely planning on doing more of those videos in the future. I found like a lot of great stuff. Like I've already used both power bars and the extension cord.
I see your home book right there.
Oh yeah, the Home Depot book. But anyways, the purpose of this Murphy table is not just to have a table that folds up, it's to actually give her more kitchen prep space. It's a multi-purpose table, so she can eat there, she can prep there, she can leave it up, fold it down. The world is her oyster. I'll leave it up to her what she wants to do with it. Okay, so let's get into it. I'm gonna build this table into 3 sections. There'll be a support piece, the tabletop, and the legs that fold out. The reason why I have to build it in 3 pieces rather than 2 is because I need something for the tabletop to hinge on. And because we're putting this next to a stove, I need a support piece that I can secure into the wall rather than secure into the stove. That'll kind of act as like a 3rd leg of sorts. For this project, I'm gonna be using some found materials. I think it's a challenge for myself to be able to do another Murphy table and just use found material. First up, I have this dowel that I found yesterday. This looks like pine, which is great. We have these big bolts. These are 8-inch leg bolts. I would drill this into the tabletop and have the leg swivel on this smooth metal surface. This is what I had to buy, unfortunately. I know I just said that I'm gonna use 100% found material, but I had to buy just a couple things. I think it came to like $5 for 2 bolts and 4 washers, so there's that. And then I still have this big, huge chunk of wood. So I'm gonna make that into the Murphy table that's gonna be beside the stove. And then the hinges I'm gonna be using are these nice brass hinges that I got from an old set of French doors. These are really strong. I probably only need 2. So I'm gonna get started on staying the tabletop, and then I can cut it up into the main structure that's gonna be screwed into the wall and the legs. There's like this green stain or paint. I'm not quite sure what it is. Why is it green? I don't know. But it's coming off nice and easy. Because this is an old tabletop, I'm first trimming all the edges using my track saw in order to give like a nice flat reference edge. So I'm cutting out the tabletop and the legs using my table saw. And then cutting down the legs to size using my miter saw. Because this tabletop is so rough and so old, I'm having to use a combination of my belt sander and my tabletop belt sander, as well as my orbital sander, and just working my way through the grits multiple times in order to make the wood look new again. So now that I have the legs and the tabletop cut out, I can now concentrate on the support piece. I think the next step that I have to do is just create a little topper for the table unit. This topper is just gonna cover the top parts of the Murphy table so that I have something to connect the hinges to. I have some scrap wood from the same tabletop that I'm just gonna run through the table saw and cut a little sliver off. Then I'm gonna secure it to the piece of wood. Okay, so I'm gonna screw and glue down this top piece onto the piece that is going to sit against the stove. This piece is gonna allow us to secure a hinge onto the piece that's gonna be secured next to the stove to allow the tabletop to swing upwards. I'm gonna put this down, I'm gonna glue it, I'm gonna screw it, and then I'm gonna glue and clamp this piece on top. We don't want this to extend above the stove because then that'd be a fire hazard. So we want this to be 36 inches, which will be right below the top. So it's gonna be about counter height. In order to secure all these pieces together, I'm using a combination of brad nails, wood glue, and wood screws in order to kind of stack them together, make a nice thick top support piece. It's a lot of screws. And of course, I'm using a whole bunch of clamps to squish everything together until the wood glue dries. So once the wood glue dries, I'm removing the clamps and I'm sanding everything down in order to make it look like all these pieces of wood are carved out from a single piece of wood. I'm sanding everything down with 80 grit sandpaper and my orbital sander. And then I'm softening the edges by putting a little chamfer along all the edges using my router. In order to secure this support piece to the wall, I'm putting a whole series of pocket holes on the back side of the support piece, and I'm not too worried about how many I'm putting in there because the oven is going to conceal all these screw holes. And because this wood is so old, I'm filling all these cracks and holes with some wood filler in order to make it nice and new and fresh. So now that the support piece is mostly finished, I can move on to the legs. I'm putting the dowel on the lathe, and that's gonna make sanding this dowel down so much easier because I can just take like the sandpaper in my hand and just kind of go back and forth while the dowel spins. I'm trying to figure out how I can make it so that the legs can fold down, yet they're gonna be strong enough to support like a lot of weight. The legs need to be concealed on either side of the tabletop in order to make it look nice and flush. That means I'm gonna have to notch out this diameter of dowel on the underside of the tabletop in order for the legs to kind of fit underneath. I'm gonna get going on cutting this down and notching at the back of the tabletop. I think it's a solid plan. So while the legs are clamped together, I'm marking where I need to add the dowel holes, and I'm drilling out these holes with a 3/4 inch Forstner bit, just to kind of countersink the head of the bolt into the leg. And then I'm using an extra long drill bit just to pre-drill for that super long bolt. So now that the bolts are sorted out, I'm going back to the dowel. I'm taping everything off just so that wood glue doesn't squeeze out and stain the wood. And again, I'm learning from Hatley's desk. I am wiping all the wood glue away before it dries so that it doesn't cause any issues in the future. I'm clamping everything together until the wood glue dries. Nice. So while that wood glue dries, I can move back to the tabletop. I'm just sanding everything down to 150 grit sandpaper using my orbital sander. And then I'm softening all the edges like I've done to the legs with a chamfer bit and my router. This is a softer wood, it's not a hard wood. Chamfering the edges will just prevent any splinters from occurring. Okay, I'm just gonna put the legs over top of the tabletop and I'm gonna trace where this crossbar is gonna go. So I'm using my track saw to try to like remove as much material as possible to create this rough channel that this dowel is gonna sit in. I'm trying to sand out this little notch for the legs to fit in, and I've devised this sanding tool. It's a reciprocating saw with some 60 grit sandpaper that I secured to this extra dowel piece. I call it the reciprocating sander. You know, it's working okay. So I'm just going to slowly sand this notch so that it's a perfect semicircle, and then hopefully I can get this assembled. Honestly, not bad. Not bad at all. Whoa! God damn it. Okay, yeah, so you can see I nicked the wood with the saw blade. And then one of the screws that's connecting the saw blade to the dowel went too far through, and I didn't realize, and it just chewed the hell out of the bottom of the wood without me knowing. So there's a little bit of damage, but I think that's okay. It is on the underside of the table that will never be seen. So I'm just gonna fill it and try to like hide the fact that I made an oopsies. I'm trying to figure out how the legs can fold open and stay open without sliding too far back. So I'm gonna move this bolt onto the leg. So the bolt will be here and it'll fold down and be concealed. Then when it opens, the stopping point will be the underside of the table. I'm just gonna create like a little notch so that the leg can fold down without it getting in the way of this bolt. Okay, so now it's time to just assemble everything, make sure everything is opening and closing properly. Wow, I am not kidding. This is honestly the first time I've seen this together. This looks Awesome. But I'm gonna pop this up on the ground and see what we're working with. So easy to do. Oh, okay. We've got a problem. That is not level. That looks level, but it's really not. Oh man. I think I know where the problem has started. From the ground to the bottom of this support piece is 32.5 inches. However, where the leg is secured to the tabletop with the bolt, that is 30 inches. So while in my head I was like, okay, so we'll make the legs 32, this is 32.5, and then it folds open and it'll be like 32 inches off the ground, right? But that's if I put the bolt at the very top of the leg, which I did not do. So the table is quite significantly slanted right now. Off the top of my head, I'm thinking, how can I get rid of 2 inches here? I have like 1.5 inches here, so I could technically move the bolt up and just like drill a new hole in the leg. But I have the whole locking mechanism for the leg installed in the leg itself, so if I move it up, then I have to... I'm having a hard time just like getting inspiration. I'm in a glass case of emotion! I don't know what's holding me back. I just like having a hard time, you know, getting some momentum on it. So I think I just need to like go around the block for a sec, just like clear my head a little bit. But I'm not talking about a walk around the block. I'm talking about taking my little scooter out for a little rip around the block. I made this seat from an old leather jacket that a friend gave me. It was just a little DIY project during the early days of COVID. I first got this scooter when I was 16, and I've taken it with me wherever I go. It's just been like a lifelong project that's constantly been in the works that I just kind of tinker at every now and then. I think I came up with a fix. It's a little ridiculous, but I'm gonna have the leg fold out again. Right now it's folding out twice, so I'm gonna have it fold out a third time. Listen, I messed up big time, I know, but I have to move past making a mistake here, and I think this is gonna be a solution. Okay, take 2. Okay, you ready for this? Okay, so we got that. It's not level, right? But then we flip this. It ain't pretty, but it certainly works, and it seems pretty strong. I'm gonna put a couple more screws in the hinges, drill out a couple more holes just for extra support, but it seems to be working perfectly fine. It looked completely level. So easy. So it finally works after some troubleshooting, and now I'm just gonna be sanding everything down to 220 grit sandpaper just to make it nice and smooth. So I'm doing my tried and true method of wood conditioner. It's so pretty. Stain. I'm gonna just mix the early American with just a splash of dark walnut just to give it that like darker brown tone. Hey guys, it is Friday. This is the last day I have to work on this before we install, but it's looking really, really good. I'm pretty happy with the overall color. It's like a beautiful brown. I think the finish will also help darken it a little bit. I've got a full thing of lacquer. Should be kind of nice, actually. Satin, and it's 30 minutes dry to touch. I think I'm gonna go for lacquer. I think that's the move. Okay, so now it's time to install it in Jody's space. Okay, so we're at Jody's apartment and we're gonna install this right next to the stove. So we're gonna secure it to the stud with these pocket holes. I have to remove some baseboard. Removing the baseboard will just allow me to get this support piece as close to the wall as possible. So we just have to cut out a little bit. Oh, there we go. Here's the baseboard and it's in one piece so she can put it back exactly how it was. I'm putting some deck screws in the pocket holes. I'm putting enough of them where there's not gonna be like a lot of strain on one particular screw. Did the screw come out the other side? Nice. Also, when you're doing like pocket holes, it's always helpful if you have an extender bit so you can get at the proper angle. If you just have like a dinky little bit here, you can't really get in there. So that's why I always use like an extender bit. It's starting to get really hot in this nook. Just want to point out, this surface is below the cooktop surface, which is really important. Kitchen code generally applies to anything that is at the same level or above the cooking surface top. If you're unsure about whether something is safe to do in your kitchen, if you want to do something like this at home, be sure to check out your local building codes. It kind of applies for like the height of the cabinet above the cooktop. I did a deep dive into the building codes before I made this just to make sure that this is entirely safe. I feel very confident in the safety of this table next to the stove.
1 minute, 37 seconds later.
No, this is not good.
No, I got it.
Graham.
Oh, sorry. That hurt.
No,
that hurt.
No, it could have, but you didn't.
I heard a crunch. Actually, yeah, put the lid down. 3 more. 2 more. 1 more. Okay. Something that I didn't foresee is that because the hinges are only secured on like the edge of the table, it just naturally wants to kind of like hang on a bit of an angle. What I'm gonna do is I'm just gonna put like a little latch so that when it's in the down position, she's not gonna like, I don't know, maybe trip over it or something. So I think it's better than having it kind of dangle on an angle. Dangle on an angle. I think this is gonna be overall just safer. Okay, it's all installed. Now I get to open it for the very first time. So this whole apartment is like full of Murphy tables and stuff. Got the Murphy bed, desk. This is like, there's 3 types of folding apparatus in here. This is the first one. It's the tabletop. Okay, then we got the legs, but then we have the feet. Look at that, it's pretty well level. So if I were to put like something that can roll, she gains so much more space in the kitchen. It's like probably triple the amount of prep space. Watch how this folds up. This is the craziest part, because like the legs hit the back there, and then it just all folds down. That's the part of the video where I talk about what I learned and what I do differently. The first being that this tabletop, I don't want to throw anyone under the bus, but I was told that it was a solid oak tabletop. Turns out it was just like cedar. I mean, cedar's really nice. Like it stains so nicely and like it looks amazing in your space, but it is a little bit softer for a tabletop, and it did make this project a little bit more challenging for me. Again, it's free, so I can't complain. If I were to give you guys advice, I'd say look for a harder wood for a tabletop, because the softer woods tend to dent a little bit easier, scratch a little bit easier. So I'd probably recommend a hardwood for a tabletop rather than a softwood. Another thing I wish I could have done differently is probably the way that the legs fold up. Like, I wish that that leg that popped up was just a single length and that didn't have to fold up and more. My overall thoughts on how it turned out, I really love it. Like, I think it was so cool. Like, when it's folded down, it's a great way to separate the kitchen from the living room. And then when it's folded up, it just provides so much more space. All those challenges that I came across making this table, I'm definitely gonna take to the next projects and hopefully improve on them. It's a fantastic piece. I hope Jody enjoys it. I hope she uses it a ton. Let me know what you guys think in the comments. And thanks so much for following along with this build. It was an interesting one, and I'll see you guys next time. Bye.